the main focus of this channel as of right now. Check out free games on Steam, try them out, give you guys reviews. Go on Steam, find the best free games, and we're gonna share them with you and let you guys know what I think. I already have a few free games that I'd like to get into, but in the future, we're gonna be doing all kinds of stuff with free games. We're gonna try out new ones that have just released, upcoming ones that are coming out, trending upcoming. We're gonna try to stray away from the usual, you know, we're not gonna be playing stuff like Counter-Strike 2 or Dota unless it's something that just came out. We are going to stick to kind of underrated titles or things you might not have heard about or wouldn't have had a chance to hear about unless you were here watching us play it. If that's something you think you're interested in, follow along, subscribe. I'm going to be learning a lot because I've never really done a YouTube gaming channel or YouTube channel for that matter much at all. So bear with me while I'm kind of figuring out the way I want to do things. But you get the general idea of what it is we're doing. So I kind of wanted to shop around in here and kind of, you know, pick apart some of this stuff, new and trending, you know, look through this, see what looks promising. But I actually already have a couple things that I downloaded for myself that I didn't have a chance to play yet that have really good reviews. And I was picking through here for a free game. I think we're going to start with Dagon. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, which was a free game I downloaded ahead of time. It's a HP Lovecraft thing. So we're going to just start with that today. We're going to make it our first one, and I hope you guys enjoy it. You got kind of a spooky little menu here. Let's just start it up. So this is Dagon. Dagon is a faithful interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work, focused on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management here, and movement is limited to progressing through locations along with the plot. So we're very story-based.
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
Okay, kind of a spooky start here. During the game, you'll encounter interactive elements. Some of them will allow you to continue your journey. Others reveal interesting facts about the original short story, its historical background, and the author. Some of the trivia is hidden in order to find these secrets. Focus your eyes and look for the elder sign. That's the twig, maybe?
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below.
Okay. I like that there's some voice acting here.
Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate.
Okay, we're gonna turn it down a little bit, sorry. Alright. Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I'm a weakling or a degenerate. I wouldn't dare.
When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
Okay. Well, we got some stuff we can interact with here. Let's zoom in. That's our ink.
It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider. The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation, so that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
Little prisoners. Got some stuff to look at here. Zoom in on this. What is that, a boat?
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time.
Here's our provisions.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings.
Okay.
Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator. Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
Right. We're looking at the moon.
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land. But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue. The change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know, for my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
Okay. I'm on land.
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished. For there was in the air, and in the rotting soil, a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core.
Spooky.
The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish, and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain. Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing, and nothing in sight, save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear. The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
Okay. We can inspect our boat here. Anything else? Nope. Okay. I'll inspect the boat.
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position.
What is it?
Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths.
I mean, that's a pretty good theory. I wouldn't have come up with that. What is that big blob? I don't like that. I don't like that big blob.
So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might.
Why is he not worried about that big blob mountain over there?
Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
You ever think you might just be dreaming, brother?
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens.
Okay.
As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue.
We're gonna check that thing out.
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease.
There's not much walking I sense in this game. This is mostly like an interactive storybook with some visuals and...
The odor of the fish
So far.
was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
I'm surprised he hasn't tried walking around yet. I mean, he spent the night here with these creepy squid and everything. We're getting some movement.
All day I forged steadily westward. guided by a faraway hummock
What
which
in
rose
the
higher
world
than
is
any
that
other
supposed to
elevation
be?
on the rolling desert.
Ugh. This is like a fictional thing, right? That's not a real thing in real life. Everything else looks like it's in real life, except for, well, that weird, I don't know what you call that, a leg? Like a spider, giant spider leg? I mean, a whale. Whales are real, last I checked.
That night, I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
What object?
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance. An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface.
Bro's never seen a mountain before.
Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill.
Okay.
I know not why my dreams were so wild that night. But ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again. And in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset.
Oh, now he's doing it at night. It was too eerie during the day, but we're doing it at night.
I started for the crest of the eminence.
My pack.
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me.
Okay.
But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine.
I love this blue color. It's like purpley.
I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined. Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
So it's steep.
Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath.
Is that an office
Gazing
building?
into the Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me. An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
Ooh. Okay. Am I supposed to be looking at something here?
That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself.
But it's so square.
But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature.
Yeah.
A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express. For despite its enormous magnitude, and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange
Monolith.
object was a well-shaped monolith,
It was so well shaped.
whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
Did something just move? Am I tripping? I thought I saw something go right to left over here, like a shadowy figure.
The moon, now near
got
the
water.
zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm.
It's kind of some spooky looking face-like figures on there. I don't know if you guys see it, but it looks like 4 heads. The bottom head looks like Deadpool or something.
And revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith.
And then there's like different sea creatures at the top, it looks like. Oh, I see there's mermaids on it. And whales at the bottom. Oh, okay. I was like not making out those shapes before.
On whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures.
See? Me too. Ooh, we get to check it out.
The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books. Consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world.
Like, everything looks pretty
But whose
familiar to me.
decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain.
A little shiny though. There's like a weird thing in the middle at the bottom.
It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
See this thing? What is that? Ooh. We got an achievement. Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later works, such as telling the story through carvings at the Mountain of Madness. Oh, the Nameless City. The Mountain of Madness. Oh, Mountains of Madness. There's more than one. Journals and characters notes. The Shadow Out of Time. The Haunter of the Dark. Islands emerging from the ocean. The Call of Cthulhu. Fictional beings and deities based on real events and mythologies. Migo in the Whisperer in Darkness. Migo to Chipotle. You can read the discovered trivia immediately or go back to them later in the main menu. Show trivia. Was that trivia? I feel like it was just telling me things, or whatever you call it. I feel like it shouldn't be called trivia. But
Plainly visible across the intervening water, on account of their enormous size, were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a doré.
what in the world is a bas relief? A doré?
I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men.
You're talking about the mermaids?
Though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto, or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint, grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer.
What is a bulwer or a Poe? This dude's just making up words
They
as
were
he goes.
damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips,
Some people like flabby lips.
glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background. for one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but
He's the
little
size of
larger
the
than
whale.
himself.
Yeah.
I remarked,
Maybe he was that
as I
size.
say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born. Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it.
What?
With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters.
I'd be backing up, dude. Oh my god.
Polyphemus and loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, the while it bowed its
It's really
hideous
mad
head
at this rock.
and gave vent to certain measured sounds. I think I went mad then. Of my frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little. I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing.
You should have tried to make friends with that guy. He seemed kind of cool.
I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls
Is it gonna
of
fill up the
thunder
ocean?
and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods. When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital,
Oh shit.
brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing. Nor did I deem it necessary
in
to
this-
insist
in the
upon a thing which
Pacific
I knew
Ocean.
they could not believe.
Oh my god. That sounded like it was behind me.
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist
I'm a little jumpy.
and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Ah, yes. The fish god. Dagon was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon was a common noun for grain. The rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as the patron saint of their war conquests. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in an Assyrian poem and an underworld prison warder in one of the Babylonian texts. He is often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretation of his name. As in Hebrew, the word dag means fish. In H.P. Lovecraft's works, Dagon is a underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that resides in the oceans. He is worshipped by a secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. Fish god? What up? Now what? Oh.
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
Right. Ooh, let's check this out. Ooh, a big one. Lovecraft's attempts to find a job in We're not gonna read these anymore. I'm good. We're just gonna get through the story. Oh, I almost missed that. Cool. Give me out of here. Take me back
It
to the
is at
monolith
night,
guy.
especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing.
The moon is so gibbous right now.
I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
I don't see anybody, bro. Lovecraft hated tobacco. Got it.
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure
heroin.
phantasm. A mere freak of fever
morphine,
as I lay
whatever.
sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man of war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling
same.
and floundering on its slimy bed,
Yes.
worshipping their ancient stone idols and
Wow,
carving
look
their
at
own
that.
detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
I know this lady. Or dude. Or whatever.
The end is near.
Oh. Oh. Okay. Get me out of here. I don't like it. I hear a noise at the door as some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
It shall not find me.
I think it's gonna find you, brother. Where are you gonna go?
God, that hand! The window! The window!
Help! Okay. I think that's it. Well, a little shorter than I expected. I think that's it. It looks like there's some DLC. Oh my god.
And scary stories have been accompanying men for centuries. They have many faces of
Oh, what is happening? Oh. So this is kind of like a way for them to try to maybe sell you some of the other stuff. Sure. So they got some DLCs. If that's something that you're interested in, you just go on the Steam store and search them up. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm actually gonna give this a